Family, what is up? It is your boy Providence back again with another video, and I am here with the Fennec. I love this gun, man. This gun actually just simply deletes people up close, struggles mid to long range, but the fire rate is fast enough to where you can still win some mid to long range battles if you hit your shots. Honestly, I'm still messing around with different attachments, trying to find what I think to be the best class setup. Everything's still real kind of early in this game right now, so anybody that tells you they got the best class setup, they're kind of capping, I ain't gonna lie. But I'll share my setup at the end of this video, so for those who care what attachments I had on, that'll be at the end of the video. But for today's commentary, man, I wanted to share some thoughts that I had on the virtue of patience. For those of you who've been following the channel, you know that I'm back on my content grind, and I shared last video on my aspirations on being a content creator. But as I was thinking, man, and just kind of reviewing my own thought processes and where, you know, my emotions are on this whole thing, this content grind really has shown me how impatient I can be. You know, like I said, last video, my hope is to kind of turn this content creation into a full-time job. I guess that's every YouTuber's dream, really. But there has been, if I'm being real, this sense of dissatisfaction that what I hope for in the future has not yet been actualized. And I feel like that might be a common sort of experience as a lot of people might have when you're, you know, grinding, working for something. Oftentimes we're working for something or trying to change something about ourselves that we don't like, or we have circumstances that we're not fond of, and we want desperately to change our current circumstances. And what ends up happening at that point is the grind becomes about changing the reality, or trying to escape the reality that we're currently dissatisfied with, into sort of like a new promised land, right? Like we want to kind of cross over the desert, the wilderness, into the promised land. And that promised land is whenever we actualize whatever goals or vision that we have for our life. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wanting to change your life if you're not happy with it, or maybe some aspect of it. But oftentimes we refuse to be happy until whatever we don't like about ourselves or circumstances change. I feel like I see two extremes. I see people who either, you know, sometimes our culture makes us fully want to accept ourselves or accept our circumstances in order to be happy, or people who just simply are so driven that they won't be happy until they get the success that they want. You know, a person that kind of comes to mind is Lizzo. And I don't say this to, you know, disrespect Lizzo in any way, but, you know, I think one of the things that our culture is pushing is like, you know, don't fat shame someone. Like, you know, Lizzo, you know, she's someone that fully accepts herself and, you know, her obesity, and, you know, as far as I can tell, just doesn't want to change it at all. And I feel like the good thing about Lizzo is, you know, she's found a way to see herself as beautiful even though she's overweight, and that's all well and good. You know, she's found sort of this happiness and this joy with, you know, even though she's overweight. But at the same time, you know, we have to be objective in the fact that scientifically it's been shown that obesity is a problem, right? And emotionally you might have found a way to be happy, but objectively speaking, despite how you might feel about yourself and your appearance, the reality is that being obese is unhealthy, and she should want to change it, right? And so I only bring that up as sort of like the closest example I could think of in this sort of this duality of finding happiness and sort of accepting and you know, sort of having this attitude of gratitude where, you know, you just basically love yourself, love who you are, love what you've accomplished, while living in the reality that there might be certain things about yourself that you may need to change. And Lizzo is an extreme example of someone who is on one side of the spectrum, but I can give examples of somebody on the other side of the spectrum. There are some people who simply cannot be happy unless they achieve their career goals or their fitness goals or their relationship goals or whatever dreams or aspirations they have. It's like they won't be happy with themselves if they never become that, right? And so that's the other extreme, right? Lizzo is completely happy, even with herself, even though there are things that she ought to be working towards changing. And there are other people who simply won't be happy until the change or the thing that they desire is actualized. So what I am arguing for, so to speak, is this medium, or the best of both worlds rather, where we are satisfied and we have joy despite our circumstances, yet we are eagerly striving to actualize whatever dreams, goals, aspirations we have with ourselves for ourselves. What does it mean to devote oneself to achieving one's goals while being satisfied and finding joy no matter what circumstances you find yourself in? And I think that this is a complicated issue because it's oftentimes because of that, dissatisfaction with your life that it does sort of drive you to push for change, right? Like, I think that sometimes in order for us to see the change that we want, we just got to get so fed up of our circumstances that we do want to see change, right? But I also think that we can't wait to find joy and satisfaction after we finally get what we want out of life, because then if we wait until we achieve our goals, then that makes our happiness dependent on the attainment of our dreams, right? And as much as we want to attain certain things, like, I just don't think we're meant to live as human beings as people who can only find joy and satisfaction with life after we've attained everything that we want to attain. I mean, because truthfully speaking, a lot of what we want is out of our control, right? The relationship we want, the financial status that we want, the accomplishments that we want. Some of it is in our control, but some of it is outside of our control. And there are people who live life bitter and upset because, they never attained whatever it is they set out to attain. And the fact is, we don't know if we will ever get what we want. So it just doesn't make sense, if you think about it, to have your joy dependent on the acquisition of whatever it is you hope for in this life. So what do you do with the dissatisfaction? I think it's okay to let the dissatisfaction fuel you to want to push towards change, but I do think you have to monitor it. If your dissatisfaction rises to the point where you really can't find joy out of life, you're really sad, you're depressed, I think at that point the dissatisfaction with your life circumstances has so entrenched itself into your soul that it needs to be combated. And for some people, man, there might be a constant state of depression that has come because of the dissatisfaction of where you are in life. And for other people, it might come in waves. It might be times where you feel really happy and you're working towards your goals, but there's other times where that dissatisfaction sort of pops up. And I don't know if there's a one size fits all answer to how to deal with things. Some people might need real professional help. Some people might need medication. But I do think that, practically speaking, there are certain things that I think that we can do to just sort of, orient our mind when we're feeling this sort of dissatisfaction or this unhappiness with where we are. And the first thing I want to suggest, man, is, remembering your identity, right? Who you are. I think it's very important to not allow your self-worth to be tied up in your success or your failure. Even when you are achieving what you are achieving, and there's sometimes this tendency to get really prideful and we allow our success to define who we are, and then when we hit low points we allow our failure to define who we are. I think either one of those extremes is very dangerous. Whether you're on a high or a low, you have to recognize your value as a human being. I personally believe that all of us have been created in the image and likeness of God, and because of it, we have inherent value and we have gifts that have been given to by God, and we all have ways in which we can contribute. And you know, it doesn't matter if you are currently, you know, not finding success, and in some respects, even if you find yourself to be tremendously successful, your value as a human being is not tied into your current circumstances. You have value that cannot be diminished just because you are made in the image and likeness of God. So I think identity is huge. But apart from knowing who you are, I think it's also important, man, to practice gratitude, man. Like practicing being thankful, taking time to recognize the blessing, taking time to recognize what you do have in life. You'll be surprised how much you actually do have, and what you do have and what you have been able to accomplish is probably far greater than what you don't have and what you think that you have not been able to accomplish. So it's so important to practice gratitude. So I think if we do these things, man, it'll at least help battle the dissatisfaction when it comes up. So, you know, I'm still thinking on these things, and you know, as I grow myself, I'll come back and share whatever insight I might have with you guys, man. But this has been another video. Thank you so much, man, for listening. If you enjoy these types of commentary, man, I would please ask that you like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. All right, guys, peace.